see. Let's do the rating. Let's see, from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you want to kill yourself, and 10 being this was amazing, ecstatic experience. Any 10s from Marcel? Let's see, I'm going to put you on gallery view. Just put your hand here if it's a 10 or if it's not. Okay, any 10s? No. 9, 8, 7. Wow. Oh, 1 7. Okay, 6. 5, all right, Wozniak. Oh, lots of 5. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, very good. All right, let's start with the haters. There were a bunch of you somewhere in the middle. I can't remember who. What happened? Why were you giving only a 5 to Marcel? Who would like to volunteer their frustration? Let's see, who were you? Rivera Cordova, Morales, Singh. You were the ones giving 5s, right? No? Okay. Let's hear from anybody. Lovers or haters. Any comments on Marcel? Were you very lost, or could you find your way through? Yes.
He kind of gave me a headache. Yeah, I think he is like dealing with like dialectics and like concepts canceling each other out, and it was like very meta. Well, that makes sense because it's metaphysical, but like it was just like going in circles kind of.
Yeah, I told you he's wandering around, right?
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily know if it's because of him though. I think it's just because of the limitation of language itself to deal with these concepts maybe. Yeah. So no matter who's talking about it, it's going to be frustrating.
Okay, very good. And especially if you're talking about something which doesn't exist, right? And you're using language which normally is used for what exists is very difficult, right? He's trying to describe something that you can't describe, right? The realm of being. Good, very good, Wozniak. I see a few comments in the chat. He's very advanced, yes, this is normal. Rahman found it meaningful but had trouble understanding the context. Confusing from Rivera. No argument. Yes, Arnau, you're right. His argument, you have to kind of extract it, which is what we're going to do in the next couple of days, right? You actually have to, it's not obvious. You have to, what's the word? Decipher it. So yeah, there is an argument, but.
That was my only really issue with it, because I feel like every good story has a conflict, but I didn't see a conflict between him and his point.
What do you mean a conflict? So who is he responding to? Is that what you're...
When we're comparing Nietzsche to him, Nietzsche, I feel like, had a very strong past within himself. Like, they both had loss. I do see that. He had a loss within his own mother, and Nietzsche had a loss within his own health. So that was something that put them in a place where they decided to both write these points of views of what they think they should have out of life. But I just feel like because Nietzsche had more of an anger, he had more of a point, he had more of a, this is my problem, this is how to fix it. I didn't see a problem and like a solution when I was reading Marcel.
Okay, good. So we're gonna see today what the mindset he's responding to, right? Because he is he is responding to a mindset, right? And we'll talk about that. But it's difficult to decipher him because so nebulous, right? He's talking about everything at once, it seems, right? Let's see, one last point. His argument that we shouldn't be arguing that stuff should be mystery. Yes, Wozniak, absolutely, right? You can't have a clear argument when you're talking about mystery, only when you're talking about problem, right? So the realm of mystery makes it difficult for us to talk clearly with proper arguments, right? That's the discourse of science, which has to do with what is. But when you're talking about this realm, right, it's difficult to be clear and so forth. Okay, good. All right, so let's get into the text. Remember the outline I gave you, I'll give it to you again. So today we're going to look again at, so first of all, the title, right? Ontological mystery. And then we're going to look at what I said last time, the disenchanted world and despair. So we'll look at that today. And then we'll begin the second section, which is the realm of being. And then this realm, which is accessible to us through three metaphysical feelings, love, hope, fidelity. Okay, so that's the program for Marcel. And we'll try to get to at least through point 1 together today. Okay, so remember when we talked about the disenchanted world last time? What did we say that meant? Anybody remember what I meant by the disenchanted world that we are in now with Marcel? Let's see if you remember. Nobody remembers?
Is it the functional world?
Yeah, so it's connected, right? He does talk a lot about the functional, but I prefer to use the word disenchanted because it's clear in my mind, at least. And it's what I think Tyler is saying, right? Everything is not explained by science, right? So in other words, disenchanted means that there is no more, everything is, what is, that's all there is. There's nothing more than what you see, hear, touch, witness on a day-to-day basis, right? So we are really in this world. When Marcel is writing, we are in the yes, last Chase is saying, science has removed the wonder, right? Science has removed the mystery of the world. So in Marcel's context, there's two things, right, that have happened. There's science, right, which has in a way removed, like Chase was saying, removed the mystery from the world, because now we can explain everything. So make sure you write this down. Point 1, we have science, which has in a way taken up the task of explaining everything. And if something remains unexplained, we know that eventually we will explain it. So we are always in a way in control. And the second thing which has happened on the level of philosophy is Nietzsche. Right? When Nietzsche says, remember the famous quote that I gave you, God is dead, right? The sea, the open sea lies before us, right? I'm typing this out for you, right? This famous quote by Nietzsche, God is dead, the sea, the open sea lies before us. Remember, Nietzsche is not, he's not the one killing God. He's simply prophesying that this will happen. God will disappear from the mindsets, from culture, right? And this is indeed what happened. With the rise of science, we had the demise of religion, right? So two things are happening in the modern era, right? We have the rise of science, which claims to explain everything, and you have the demise of religion, which was the last witness of mystery, right? Has been now set aside because we're sick and tired of bunch of reasons why religion was set aside in Europe, especially France, right? Remember, there is the fact that religion was the cause of a lot of the wars, the persecutions. Religion was a factor in the ignorance of the people. So people were all too happy to get rid of religion. Right? So Nietzsche is really just simply prophesying what is about to happen. We are about to enter a more and more secular society with no room for anything but what science is describing, right? So this is the time. This is the time of Marcel, right? Late 19th century, early 20th century, where you have this rise of science, demise of religion, and of course you have the Nietzschean, the powerful Nietzschean presence is making any right, how shall I put this, right? The powerful Nietzschean press. So Nietzsche is in the mind of everyone, right? Saying, stop inventing stuff, just live, right? Enjoy what is. Stop imagining that there is more. And everyone is now, in a way, embarrassed to think beyond what is, right? In the light of what Nietzsche has done. So we're in this time, right? Where there's nothing but what is. So let's look a little bit at a quote that Marcel talks about, which in a way clarifies what I just said. So let's go to page 12, and I'm gonna quickly close my window because I'm freezing. I'll be right back. Okay, so page 12, go to page 13, no, 12. Okay, so we're going to look here at how Marcel diagnoses the 20th century, right? Last paragraph of page 12. Are you there? It should be noted. Say yes if you're there.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
very good. So let's read together. It should be noted that this world is, on the one hand, riddled with problems, and on the other, determined to allow no room for mystery, right? So we have entered a world where the only thing that really matters is the realm of problems. Remember, we made this distinction in the introduction between problem and mystery, right? Problem is something we can solve, something we can explain. This is the mindset of science, and this is most of our mindsets. We live in this mindset that there is no mystery, everything has an explanation, and ultimately we can control everything, right? So he says we live in this world, on the one hand, riddled with problems. In other words, we have this mindset that everything can be made clear, everything can be mastered, and at the same time a world determined to allow no room for mystery. So we have lost the sense of mystery, the loss that there is something more, that there is something deeper. Now again, let me remind you, Marcel is not interested in the afterlife in the Christian sense of the term of, an alternative reality where we all fly to when we die, right? He means mystery here, right? We have lost the connection with the deep core, with a deep dimension of mystery, which is all around us here and now, right? This is not an afterlife thing. So he continues, I shall come back to this distinction between problem and mystery, which I believe to be fundamental. For the moment, I shall only point out, this is page 13, that to eliminate or to try to eliminate mystery is to bring into play in the face of events which break in on the course of existence, such as birth, love, and death, the psychological and pseudo-scientific category of the purely natural, which deserves a study to itself. Okay, let's translate. What does he mean by this sentence, right? All he's saying is that we are trying to eliminate mystery, or the scientific mindset that we are all inhabited with, because we are the heirs of the 20th century, right? We're all inhabited by this mindset that we don't want mystery, we want to eliminate it. He says, actually, there are certain events which break out of that. There are three key events he mentions here, which in a way crack open the dimension of mystery into our lives. What are those three events? Did you catch them in what I read? Three events where we are in the face of mystery.
Birth, love, and death.
Exactly, right? So he cites these three events, birth, love, and death, thank you, Park, right? Where in a way, this breaks with the scientific categories. This breaks with what we have control over or what we can explain, right? So let's look at each, right. And then he says, we try to ignore these, we try to relegate these to the scientific realm, but these events continuously explode, right? The categories of science, they explode our understanding. They don't fit into our neat categories, right? So let's look at that a little bit, right? So birth, right? So scientists will say, well, birth makes total sense, right? Scientifically, this is what happened in the woman's body, and then this, and then that, and now we have birth, right? But when you think about it, right, there is still something profoundly extraordinary about a birth, right? This is, how is it, right, that another human being makes its way into our lives, right? There's something miraculous about every single birth. No matter how many explanations we give, there's still something, what we say in French, et je ne sais quoi, right? There's something there which escapes our understanding, right? So, but birth is the easiest to still relegate into science. When it comes to love, it's another story, right? So again, with the category of love, we have something which remains unexplained. How is it that some people fall in love, and other people doesn't work? Or how is it that some love endures beyond all of the, problems in the relationship, right? If you've seen some of these great loves, right? where I'm sure if you look at your grandparents' marriage, right? These are one of these great loves where they've gone through so much stuff and yet they're still together. This is a mystery. This is not a problem. How did they work it? How did this happen? How are they still together is a mystery. A lot of couples, actually, you watch them after many, many years and decades together, and there is no scientific explanation why they're still together. It doesn't make sense. It's a mystery why these guys are still together, right? So there's something about the connective tissue of love, which is not easily explained away, right? Well, psychology will say, oh, they're codependent, or, you know, they're addicted to each other, or they're, you know, so there's all kinds of psychological explanations why these couples endure, but there's still something that remains of the mystery of that relationship, of that love lasting so long and enduring so much and still surviving, right? So love to a certain degree, right? Certain people's love for others that are, I don't know if you've met these people like this, where they love someone who is unlovable. And you're like, why, how are you still loving this person after what they did? It can be a child, it can be a parent, it can be a romantic partner. And you witness these people still loving that person who has done so much wrong to them. How do they do this, right? Psychology quickly explains, oh, you know, whatever, maternal bond or bonding or whatever. But it's still, it's many, many relationships are where love is involved, and a love that is true, that endures, that overcomes everything. This is still a mystery, right? So this is one of these moments where you're in the presence of a mystery. By the way, just to give a footnote, this idea of love as a mystery, I think, is very useful when you go through a rough patch in your relationship, because the reflex is, when you're going through a rough patch in your relationship, is to go to the therapist to fix the relationship. Now, what would Marcel say about this idea of fixing the relationship? Let's see if you've understood. What do you think he would say about that? So Tyler is saying, leave it be. Why? Why is this a good idea? Should we leave it be? It's a mess. Find a deeper problem. Okay, so now you want to find a deeper problem to fix. So you want to fix deeper. What would Marcel say about this tendency we have to want to fix things? What is this? What are we doing with our relationship? Yes, you're exerting control. And can we exert control over the dimension of love, according to Marcel? No, exactly, right? So when you rush to the therapist trying to fix your relationship, you're missing something fundamental about your relationship, is that your relationship is not a problem to be fixed. Your relationship is a mystery to be experienced. I want you to write this down because this is going to be useful. Let me put it in the chat because this has helped me so much, right? A relationship is not a problem to be fixed. It is a mystery to be experienced. And so very often we rush to fix, or we want to control, and we want to make that person love us and treat us differently, and we want them to change, and we want and so here we are applying pressure and coercion, and it doesn't work, right? A relationship, there are moments in the relationship where you have to, like I think it's Tyler who said that, you have to let it be. You have to let it follow its own spontaneous rhythm. You have to experience it. There are ups and downs in the relationship that you cannot control. You can only experience them and go through and not leave the boat until it has truly sunk. Right? Yes, Marcel, the love guru. This is some of the ramifications of what he's saying, right? This is, I think, very important in our culture where we're always trying to fix everything and control everything. We have to remember that there are some things we cannot fix and control in relationships is that relationships have to be experienced. And the question is, do you have the audacity and the courage to experience a relationship to the fullest? This is the question you should ask yourself, right? Am I correct? Nietzsche would love this, by the way, right? Nietzsche would be all with Marcel right there, cheering him on, right? Do we have the courage to experience the relationship in all of its movements, right? Highs and the lows, without leaving the ship, right? Experiencing it as a mystery which is there meant to be experienced, rather than quickly rushing to fix and arrange, and then if it doesn't work, we discard, right? So that's just a little parentheses, love advice from Marcel to us, right? Final category of mystery. Yes, let's see what Shay says. Once you see control, you take attention from the lesson. Yes, it's something like that, right? The relationship has its own wisdom. It has its own intelligence, right? And often we want, and the pain in the relationship or the joy in the relationship are all there. They're all part of the journey, right? And so if you want to fix, you in a way want to avoid certain aspects of the relationship which you don't like, but which you should be experiencing, right? Nietzsche would be like, yes, we constantly trying to avoid pain. So we want to fix, when actually the relationship actually should be entered with courage and experienced on all of its levels. And there Marcel and Nietzsche would be unanimous. They would be in total agreement, right? Let's not be afraid of experiencing mystery, of allowing things to be out of control, of living through the chaos, of just weathering the storm, right? Without trying to fix it, right? This is what is asked of us, because we are in the realm of mystery and not of problem when it comes to relationships, right? Okay, last explosion of mystery in our lives, or last glimpse of mystery in our lives, is death, obviously, right? And this is also interesting, the way he formulates death, because we tend to see death as a problem, right? Oh, you know, we want to fix it. We want to, you know, push it as far as possible away from us, right? We see it as a problem that needs to be fixed or avoided. Since we cannot fix it, we choose to avoid it, right? But most of our science is focused on how to push death back, how to make death, how to defeat death the most possible, right? So we still see death as a problem, and Marcel here is inviting us to see death as a mystery. Now this is interesting, because it takes away the terror, I think, to realize that death is yet another experience, another liminal experience of mystery. Let me write this expression down, right? Death as a liminal experience of mystery. What do I mean by liminal? Liminal is a like a frontier, like a border that you're a threshold, right? So we're here in life, and then there are thresholds. Birth is one of these thresholds, or final frontier, right? Love is a threshold where you're pushed beyond your ordinary life, right? And death also is a threshold. So Marcel now is inviting us to see death not as a problem that we need to escape or avoid or fix, but as a mystery to also be experienced in the same way that we experience birth, and in the same way that we experience love. Dumbledore says that death is, so a quote from Dumbledore, guys, death is but the next great adventure. Yes, that's the idea. You can see it like that, right? We don't know what death, I mean, it's true. Why are we so afraid of something we don't know? We don't know what's going to happen, right? Nobody has come back to tell us whether it's horrifying to die, right? Maybe it is the gateway to the next great adventure, as Dumbledore is saying. But that's the idea. To see death as a mystery is to stop trying to resist it, is to allow ourselves to experience it, to experience it as one of the mysterious experiences of life, right? This is part of what it means to be human. This is one of the threshold experiences we are invited to have, right? Just like birth, just like love, death is part of the same dimension, right? So these are moments in our lives, right, where we are confronted, where we get a glimpse of mystery, right? And science, of course, is trying to cover up everything, right? Science and psychology, right? Birth can be easily explained. Here's a chart of what is happening in the woman's body. Love, this is just, you know, the hormones and the pheromones and, you know, and whatever, the codependencies, why they're still together. And then death, we are just trying to fight against it the best we can with our technology and our science, right? So we're missing out, says Marcel, right? So yes, of course, Rivera, science is necessary. The world is also something we can manage and control and understand, but not all of it. I think that's what Marcel is saying. There are things we should understand, like how to beat coronavirus, right? This is something we should be applying ourselves. This is a problem that we can control, that we should resolve, right? There are many things that are problems. Most of our lives are riddled with problems, but we can't forget that there is this other dimension also, right? What do you mean that it is a place to draw lines in the sand, Chase?
So he's saying like it's not a reason to disregard science. I don't think it's necessarily a disregarding of science, but just like a limit. Like there's a limit, there's a ceiling that science caps that it can't really reach over. Like all the things that it says it fixes, we still have a ton of diseases that still exist. So it's like there's always a cap for you at some point.
Right, absolutely, right. So yeah, to realize that science has its limits, and they're not just financial and funding limits, which is actually most of the problem nowadays. It's limits of funding. But even if we had all the funding in the world, there are some things we could not understand. That's what Marcel is saying. And we just need to remember that we are not just our universe is not just made of problems, it's also constituted of mystery. There's also a dimension of mystery. So, okay. So going now to the notion of despair, right? So according to Marcel, despair arises when we have lost the sense of mystery, right? We have lost this connection to this deeper reality. We just are stuck, we have been thrown into a world where anything could happen, right? If you live in a world where there is only problems, right, there's nothing to hang on to. Anything could happen. Everything is terrifying, right? So that's the idea, is that in a way, the only way to overcome our despair, right? And like I said last time in the introduction, right? In a world where there is no mystery, where there is only what is, it's a total chaos, right? Anything could happen at any moment. I could die tomorrow. I could have an accident. The earth could implode. I don't know. So in such a realm where there is nothing more than just the wretched reality that you see on the news, if you're not, trying to forget about it all day long in, doing something else, it's impossible, right, to not despair. Remember, I told you that whoever is not despairing is escaping, is veiling their face. They're doing everything to escape. So Marcel is saying there's another way to deal with despair. Instead of escaping it and avoiding it, we should actually reconnect to that deeper dimension. Once we are connected to the dimension of mystery again, we have an anchor, right? We have something that endures in the chaos. And so we'll have to develop, of course, what he means by this dimension. And especially we have to find the argument that he makes for it, right? Remember, this is the only way that we can respond to Nietzsche, right? If he's just saying, there's mystery, and Nietzsche's going to be like, poof, right? What mystery? This doesn't exist. You have no proof. So we will talk about the argument for it in a second. For now, I just want to take some time and develop this notion that Marcel calls being, which is the same as mystery, which is this deeper dimension that he says we ought to connect to. So going to the second section now, entering the second section. Sorry, one more text with regards to mystery. Go to page 13, second paragraph. I'll just read the whole paragraph. We'll have here the notion of wonder, right? In such a world, are you there? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. In such a world, the ontological need, the need of being, is exhausted in exact proportion to the breaking up of the personality on the one hand, and on the other, to the triumph of the category of the purely natural and the consequent atrophy of the faculty of wonder. So in essence, what he's saying is that in the world we live in, right, where we have decided that everything is just, he calls it the purely natural, meaning everything has an explanation, has a scientific explanation. There's nothing more than science, right? Everything has a scientific explanation. He says we have reached the atrophy of the faculty of wonder. In other words, we have forgotten how to wonder, right? We are good at figuring out, resolving, fixing, but we have lost the art of wonder, which is simply, wow, this is amazing. I don't know where it's coming from. This is a moment of pure grace that I don't know how it happened. This is wonder, right? So make sure you get the distinction between this mindset that most of us have to understand, to grasp, and to fix, and the other mindset, which Marcel calls wonder, and once you are in a state of wonder where you are just, wow, right? How did this happen? I don't get it. This is amazing. At that moment, you're connecting to mystery or to being, right? Okay, so let's go a little more into this notion that Marcel calls being, right? It's with a big B, or mystery, right? This is the same thing. Before we get into what Marcel is saying, I want to mention that this idea that there is a dimension of depth in reality beyond what we see is not new. Now, I forgot if I told you this already, but did we go over the Chinese, the Hindu, and the Greek philosophies on this topic? No? I need a confirmation, another witness that I didn't talk about this, so I don't sound...
I don't think so.
Okay, good. All right. So I did this with the other class. All right. So this idea that Marcel is bringing forward, right, that there is a deeper dimension to life that we ought to connect to. Sounds religious, right? But actually isn't. You can find it in a number of systems, of philosophical systems. So I'm going to look at a few, and you'll see how they all, in a way, say the same thing, right? So first one I will look at is Taoism, which is Chinese philosophy. And you have the notion there of the Tao, right? So in Chinese philosophy, there's this notion that there is, there's life, and then there is a deeper dimension called the Tao, to which we need to align ourselves in order to live prosperous and happy lives, right? Are you all familiar with this concept of the Tao? No. Okay, none of you. Okay, well, that's okay. As we go into the different philosophies, you'll start to recognize it. So this is in Chinese philosophy, right? This Tao, yeah, like in the Tao Te Ching, right? This is the book that we find this notion, right? This is a very famous Chinese philosophical work where it talks about how we, as long as we live disconnected from the Tao, we live chaotic, reckless lives which have no meaning. Now the Tao, another word for the Tao in Chinese philosophy can be nature, the intelligence of nature, right? So that's one way to understand it. There's nature, there's life, and then there's the deeper intelligence of nature. So Wozniak, yes, that's right, that's the spirit, yes. Very good. So in Hindu philosophy, you have the same notion. You have the notion of the Brahman, that we ought to connect to. Anybody familiar with this notion of this deeper self, or this higher self that we ought to connect to? Anybody know how to connect to it in the Hindu philosophies? When they talk about connecting to this deeper self, do you know how they do it? Anybody know?
Is it I don't know, like, I'm gonna sound a bit amateur, but like, you have to live your life perfectly or you're doomed to rebirth?
So yeah, and how do you reach this connection with this deeper self so that you can live a perfect life?
I forgot what the terminology is, but you have to reach like a certain perfection to escape the cycle of rebirth.
Exactly. And one of the ways you do that is through meditation, right? This is what Sosa mentioned, right? So you can connect to this deeper self. And as you're connecting to this deeper self, you're living more harmoniously, you are, and perfectly, and avoiding the next rebirth, right? Greek philosophy talks about the intelligence of nature. You find this in the pre-Socratics, or in Greek, the nous, This is a Greek word which means intelligence. So in Greek philosophy, there's an early Greek philosophy, right? Not Plato and Aristotle, but the early pre-Socratics talked about aligning ourselves with the nous, with the intelligence of nature, that there is some, even though everything looks chaotic and random, there is a deep intelligence which connects everything, right? This was a very, very typical Greek idea that even though everything looks random and everything looks chaotic, there is a deeper intelligence which holds everything together. You have similar idea, of course, in Christianity, where you have here the person of Jesus or God, right? Which actually has the same notion at the center of everything. And the Apostle Paul even uses the expression that the Christ holds everything together, which is a Greek expression, right? He's talking the language of the Greek philosophers, right? So replacing the nous with the person of Jesus, saying he's now holding everything together. And then you have, of course, the Stoics, right? This is later, Stoicism, where they talk about a connection to nature, right? So again, to nature as an intelligence, right? The Stoics are pretty interesting in that sense. Wait, let me write this down, nature as an intelligence. In other words, according to the Stoics, and this is similar idea to Marcel, life is intelligent. In other words, we should surrender to it, knowing that it will lead us where we need to go. We should, in a way, attune ourselves to where we are now, because this is part of the intelligence of life. Life intelligently has put us there, and therefore we should embrace the now, because we are there for a reason. Life has put us there for a reason. So the Stoics actually see life as intelligent. Whatever is happening to you is life putting it in your life, putting it on your path, so you can mature, progress, grow, and so forth. So anywhere you are right now is a design of the intelligence of nature. You are meant to be there for a reason, right? Are you getting the picture? Yes, yes, no, yes. Okay, yes, we have one yes. Okay, so Marcel is really part of a very large tradition when he says there is a deeper dimension that we need to connect to, right? Now, Nietzsche might be sitting by and listening carefully, because at least Marcel is not departing from the world. So this is interesting, but we still have to formulate an argument for the existence of that dimension. We haven't done that yet, right? Most of the philosophies I mentioned, they just say there is a dimension, right? Taoism just writes it out. Hinduism also, and Stoicism and the Greek philosophers, they just say it's there. They don't argue for it. So in a way, Marcel is really making a contribution because he's offering an argument for it. So Tyler, he is in a way rebashing old beliefs, but he's offering he's offering something new, in that for the first time he's giving an argument for the existence of this dimension, right? So, and this is where he's making a contribution, right? The others, they just say it's there, we have to believe them. Marcel is actually going to attempt to show that, well, there is reason to believe, exactly, legitimizing, I can't say that word, legitimizing it, right? He's going to give us reasons to believe that at least the possibility of this dimension exists, right? Remember, Marcel can't for sure put the dimension on the table, right? He can't give us a microscope and, there's being, right? No, there's never going to be a certainty when it comes to the realm of being, but certainly he can offer us glimpses of the possibility that it is actually a genuine dimension, right? Okay. So let's see if there's anything. Yeah, let me look quickly. Now, here's one step further that Marcel makes before I get into the way he argues for it. Here, step further that Marcel makes from all of these philosophies I mentioned is that this intelligence, right, or this dimension, which for the other philosophies is just a kind of energy or intelligence, Marcel is going to personalize it. Okay, make sure you write this down, that this dimension for Marcel is not just an energy or an intelligence, it's a presence. It's an intelligence which is personal. In other words, this intelligence is aware of you, right? Like a person would be aware of you. It's not just a material or inert or abstract intelligence, right? So let's read what he says and then clarify. And again, we have to argue for everything that I'm saying right now. Right now, I'm just telling you what he's going to argue for. Okay, so go to page 12, to the third paragraph where he says, I have written. Who is there? Say yes. Yes? Okay, good. All right, I'm going to read kind of the whole paragraph because it's interesting. Okay, I have written on another occasion that provided it is taken in its metaphysical and not physical sense, the distinction between the full and the empty seems to me more fundamental than that between the one and the many. So here he's alluding to one of the first philosophers called Parmenides. I can't say it in English. Parmenides, how you say it? Anybody learned this philosopher? Parmenides? How do you say it in English? No answer. Nobody studied this guy?
I would say Parmenides, but I don't know.
Thank you. That's it. Parmenides. Parmenides. Okay. Parmenides. You guys make things so complicated. Yeah, I studied him in French, so it's different. Okay. So Parmenides is one of the first philosophers, and Plato actually follows up on what he's saying, the main philosophical question is the one and the many, right? Is there a unique essence behind all of the multiplicity of life, right? That's the main philosophical question that Parmenides and later on Plato and Aristotle and everybody else asked, right? Is there a one beneath the many? And Marcel is like, well, this is not the most important question. The real question, he says, that we should be asking is the distinction between the full and the empty. So we're going to see where he's going with that. So he says this is particularly applicable to the case in point. Life in a world centered on function, right? Or life in the disenchanted world is liable to despair because in reality, this world is empty. It rings hollow, right? So in other words, a disenchanted world where there is just problems and science is a world which for Marcel rings empty. There is an emptiness there. There's something missing, right? It's like a robot. Everything is working. Everything has its place. The world is a big machine. But is that really what life is? A big machine where everything has its own little function? Or should there be something deeper to life than just everything fitting together perfectly, right? That's what he's asking. Right? Science has made nature and the world into a big, giant machine with all the parts having their spot and everything being explained. And he's saying this rings hollow. There's something missing, right? So then he continues. And if and by it he means life, right? If life resists the temptation, meaning the temptation of despair, it is only to the extent, make sure you underline this, that they're coming to play from within it, within our lives, and in its favor, in our favor, certain hidden forces which are beyond its power to conceive or to recognize. In other words, let me translate again what he's saying, right? Life in a world where there is only problems and scientific explanations sounds hollow for Marcel. That's the first point, right? And in this world, we can only despair. Even though everything makes sense, everything has an explanation, it's so empty that we want to die, right? So he says the only thing that prevents us, right, from falling deeply into despair is the awareness, right, of something deeper in existence. And now this is important. This something deeper within existence is not only an intelligence that functions and churns away, right? It's an intelligence which is in our favor, right? Now this changes everything, right? It's not just an intelligence that we should align ourselves to and then everything will fall into place. This is an intelligence which works for us. Okay, so make sure you write this down, that Marcel is saying that the dimension of mystery or the dimension of being is not just an abstract intelligence, it's an intelligence which is on our side. Okay, make sure you write this down. Let me type it in the chat, right? So being is an intelligence which works in our favor or which is on our side. So this sounds too good to be true. Nietzsche is already starting to squirm in his seat, right? I can already see him turning over a couple times in his grave, right? And this idea that there's an intelligence which is on our side. What does this mean? Right? And of course, yes, chaos theorists and entropy would be everybody, right? Everybody in the scientific community, everybody in the philosophical community right now are like, what are you doing? Right? You can't say this, right? Remember, Marcel is one of the more audacious philosophers trying to say things he's not supposed to be saying in the context of philosophy. But, and again, right, everything I'm saying right now, I'm going to have to argue for it. Right? This is not enough to just say, you know, the universe is on our side. This is not New Age, right? Where they're saying, you know, just make how do they say? Have a vision board, you know, or have, you know, make sure you have a strong desire, and then the universe will fall into place. So, I mean, to a certain degree, right? Marcel is saying that the universe is on our side and works for us, kind of like these discourses, except the difference is that he's going to make an argument for it, right? Do you remember, how many of you have read The Alchemist? Let me write this. It's a popular book. Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's a very popular book. How many of you, let me take a look. Let me see the screen with all of your faces. Raise your hand like this if you've read The Alchemist. I'm the only one who read The Alchemist? Okay, this is tragic. Okay, guys, you need to get this book. It's a very popular book. It's very easy to read. It's very poorly written, but it's good. It's still interesting, a book to read, and it's one of the key books of our popular culture, right? And good. Okay, so a few of you came across it. Very good. So in The Alchemist, I'll just tell you the story. There's the expression of it's a story of a young man who is journeying through life, and one of the key ideas of that book is that if he has a clear sense, if he finally connects to his deep calling, right? As soon as you connect deeply to your calling, according to this story, right, the universe will open all the doors for you and work on your behalf, right? So there's this idea that once you have a clear sense of who you are and what your deepest calling is, yes, the personal legend. Finally, somebody read it, Sarah. Very good, right? Once you have a clear sense of your calling or your personal legend, very good. So you read it too, Wozniak. Okay, good. Then in a way, the doors will begin to open and the universe will begin to work on yourself. This is similar, right? Marcel is kind of resonating with this kind of popular culture idea of the universe, right, working on your behalf or responding to you somehow, right? You know, we see this. How many of you, okay, this you've read, The Secret, right? I'm sorry to bring these works up when we talk about Marcel. It's very sad, but it's the only way. Now, are you familiar with this now? The Secret? This is very, very, very popular culture. Let's see, let me look at your faces. Put your hand out if you're familiar with The Secret. One person. Okay, great. Yes, with a wax seal on it in Barnes and Nobles. Very good. Right. Guys, if you don't even read popular culture, there's no hope. I know you're not reading philosophy, but some of you have seen it, right? Same idea. I'm sure you've heard the concept, right? If you have a clear vision of where you're going, the universe will respond, right? So this is similar, right? Except, of course, we need to make an argument and not just say things randomly that have no foundation or basis, right? So this is really the idea that somehow the universe or being or mystery responds to us, right? There is working on our behalf, is on our side. So this sounds completely, so far you should be very uneasy like Nietzsche. All of you should be squirming in your seats like, what the hell is going on? This is too good to be true, what? Right? But we need to see the way that Marcel argues for it. So I'm going to begin explaining maybe one of them, maybe not. I'm just going to open up the next section on the three feelings. I'm going to remind a few points, and then next time we'll go into them into detail, right? So Marcel is going to say, so first of all, let's be clear. Marcel is not going to give us, what do you call it? he's not going to give us a completely clear argument that this dimension exists. Okay, so let's take that out of our minds. Let's lose this expectation that he's going to, like, you know, give us a foolproof argument that being, this dimension exists. You can't. Why is it that he cannot give us a foolproof argument about the dimension of being? Anybody knows why he can't do that? Yeah, very good, Alchemist, right? It's a personal experience, so it's something that all of us, so this is actually very, we won't talk so much about it, but it is a deeply personal experience, something that happens within us, so, you know, you can't really explain that for others. And he cannot speak on what is in his personal experience, and he cannot talk for us. Okay, you guys are better at this than I thought. You're really understanding, I think, the issue that the experience of being is a deeply personal experience. So all he can do is give us the direction, give us a glimpse, and then it is up to us to experience this or not, right? So, one of the key ways that we experience being, according to Marcel, is through certain feelings, right? We talked about this in the introduction, so let me remind you, right? There are certain feelings, according to Marcel, which give us a glimpse that this dimension must exist. In other words, now this is new, I didn't say this last time. We could not have these feelings if we did not have an implicit awareness of that dimension. Yes, I'm going to repeat that. We could not have these feelings, which we're gonna study, right, which is love, hope, and fidelity, if we did not have already an implicit connection to being or mystery. Okay, so this is very important. Make sure that finds its way in your notes, right? In other words, these feelings arise in us because we have an awareness deep down, unconscious to being. Okay, of course, this doesn't make too much sense right now, but maybe we can try with the first feeling we talked about last time, which was ontological exigence, remember? This kind of, remember that was the woman in the Upper East Side, and she's kind of, you know, unsettled, and she something's missing, she has a longing, right? Okay, now, so Marcel diagnoses her condition as a longing for being. Remember, right? We talked about this. Everybody remembers the story? Say yes? Yes, okay, one person remembers, good, right? So, okay, a few more, very good, right? So Marcel diagnoses her condition as a longing for being because everything in her life is fine, so therefore this longing is not for something that is here at her grasp, it's something deeper. Now, can you long for something that you have no experience of, no prior experience of? This is the $1 million question. No, you can't, right? Unless, yes, Wozniak? Tell me, Wozniak.
I don't know, like the opposite of nostalgia. I don't know. That's just what I was thinking.
But can you long for something of which you have no awareness?
Oh, no.
That's the idea, right? So the longing, the fact that you're longing for being shows that you already have an awareness of being. You, in other words, you could not have this longing for being unless being existed. Does that make sense? In other words, the condition of possibility for your longing is being, because otherwise you can't long for something which doesn't exist. Does that make sense? In other words, the condition of possibility, if you're confused, it's okay, we'll go deeper next time. Condition of possibility of your feeling is being, right? So in other words, okay, let me try and be clearer. You couldn't have this feeling if being wasn't at the basis of that feeling. In other words, that feeling wouldn't exist if being didn't exist. And that's how he argues for the dimension of being. Does that make sense? Let me find a clearer example. Okay, you know, anybody have an example? Okay, let's see, Rivera. Can I want something you don't know exists? Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Can I want, like Oreos? Yes. See, somebody wants Oreos. I want Oreos too, by the way. I wouldn't mind having some Oreos. Okay, I don't know. Everybody wants Oreos. Okay, great. Okay, so exactly, right? You couldn't long for Oreos if you had not once in your life at least seen an Oreo or tasted an Oreo, or seen someone taste an Oreo and be like, "Ooh, that looks like it's good," right? This is the same thing. You can't have a longing out of the blue. If you're longing for it, it's proof enough, the longing, for the existence of what you're longing for. The longing itself is the proof. Does that make sense? Okay, the longing itself is proof that being exists. Right, exactly. Same thing with the car. Very good. Yes, I know. I want a car too, so I can get out of here and go to a forest somewhere far away. Yeah, just saying. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so that's how it's in essence, right? Just so you can remember something that makes sense before you go home. It's okay, great. So somebody's already confused. Bosniak, what do you mean?
I just think, like, without your clarification, like, reading it, that was the really confusing part, where he kind of like looped in a circle and really like gave me a headache. So now
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
kind of clear.
It should become clear. Good, I'm glad, right? So in other words, we have certain feelings, and these feelings are testifying to the dimension of being, because we couldn't have these feelings unless we had an awareness of being already, right? So in other words, these feelings are windows onto the dimension of being. Let's just say it like that, right? Let me just leave it at that, and then so I don't confuse you anymore. But these feelings, that's what we said last time, are windows onto the dimension of being, right? They signify towards that dimension. And so we're going to look more deeply into these three feelings, love, hope, and fidelity, and see how each time we experience them, we are in fact showing, each time we experience them, we are experiencing them because in a way we are aware of being. I'm getting mixed up, and I'm mixing you guys up already. So we should wait until we get to the actual feelings so that we can be clear. But that's in essence the idea, right? These feelings in a way are pointing us to being. They're an awareness of being. They show an awareness of being. Okay, I'm gonna stop for now. Could this be an argument for God? Yes, similar arguments have been made for God, in the sense that you have a longing for God. Well, how can you have a longing for God if God doesn't exist, right? In the same way that you can't long for an Oreo if an Oreo doesn't exist. Now, of course, this has been demolished, this argument, because people will say, like Nietzsche will say, oh, you're just longing for a father. So now you're making a big father in the sky, right? You're just longing for love. And love actually exists. So there's ways to debunk, sadly, that argument. But it's been used, right? The fact that you're longing for God, the fact that you have this like they say in Christian circles, a God-shaped hole in our hearts, right? Then in a way that is testifying to the fact that God might exist, right? Very good. Okay, good. So you will read the next section. Good luck. You should come across love, hope, and fidelity at some point. And then we'll see what we do with this. So you have the whole weekend to read this, and we will meet again together next Monday, correct? The 20th. Good. So if anyone still has questions about this or your grade or whatever, you can stay behind, and the rest of you can go. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Professor. Thank you.